Hey, great girlfriends, we're inviting you to join us for the 2019 Doers and Disruptors Conference, June 13th through the 15th in New York City. This 3-day event includes exciting receptions, life-changing panels, incredible mastermind groups, connections, and more. This year, we had over 100 great girlfriends from around the world connect with like-minded women and create incredible memories. Now, it's your turn to be a part of this exclusive event. Visit our website, www.thegreatgirlfriendsconference.com, to grab an early bird ticket for yourself and your greatest girlfriend. We cannot wait to see you there. Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I am your host, Brandis Daniel.
I'm your co-host, Sibylla Muti.
And we have with us,
yes, Miss Patrice Washington.
Woo! Look, I'm going to cheer for myself.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey. Finally. Long time coming.
Yes.
Girlfriends, listen, go ahead and get your pen and paper. You don't even understand how significant this moment is that we're having right now, and what a soldier Patrice Fine Wine Washington is. You see how I dropped your nickname in there?
I like it. Fine wine. I'm with it. I'll take it.
So just so you know, girlfriends, you want to know why I call her Fine Wine? Well, you can Google her for that part. But Patrice walked up in our Great Girlfriends reception with this citron dress, y'all, with her braids cascading to the side. And look, I'm looking at her like, hey, who is this chick? I mean, she just blew up the spot. She's so elegant and beautiful.
Well, first of all, thank you for that. And second of all, thank you for your use of the word citron. Actually, it was actually one of your listeners who taught me that night. And so I have been rocking with this whole citron ever since. Like, honey, I'm getting my colors together. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Girl, citron is your color. It's your color.
Beautiful on you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, so we met Patrice earlier, I believe it was earlier this summer. And we have our great girlfriend, Tico, say, you guys have to meet Patrice. You have to have a conversation with her. And so we did an old-fashioned 3-way phone call and got on the phone, and we both left that phone call absolutely like looking at each other like, okay, she got to speak at the conference. Like, our great girlfriends have got to hear from her, because her story and her passion for what she does, girl, almost left us speechless, and that's hard to do.
Right.
Oh, wow.
We both always have something to say. And really, Patrice, I'll tell you about this like later in life, but there were some things that you said in that conversation that when I tell you I carried with me, like I carry with me every day.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what an honor.
Absolutely. So,
I love it.
Yeah, so this is just, we're going to say this is perfect timing.
This is perfect timing. That's exactly what it is. It's perfect timing because we're in our series, Against All Odds.
Yes. So perfect. Her story is so perfect. Look, her story is if she's not here, Sybil.
I know. Patrice, your story is so perfect. And I mean, there's so many pieces to Patrice. So many of you are listening to her weekly on the radio. And you even had some listeners, Patrice, that were in from Atlanta at the What Women Want conference that we met on that Saturday, that came for one day because they heard you on the Steve Harvey show, and they wanted to come out and experience the conference on their way to a cruise.
And yes, wasn't that crazy?
So awesome. But this series that we have going now we kicked it off with Lucinda Cross, and Lucinda is the founder of the Activate.
Yeah, I love Lucinda.
Lucinda is fantastic, and Lucinda's story it's jaw-dropping, and it's something that you read in a novel, but it was a real life story of a girl who really defied the odds and systematically shouldn't even be where she's standing, but God really had a different finish to her story, you know? And
yeah.
So this series is dedicated to women who have pushed past the odds and who found a way to really, really make sense of the pieces that, come with the story. The story can be complex sometimes. And a lot of times we find ourselves with rubble and people are going, what do I do with these pieces? And, your story, Patrice, is another one of what happens when, things don't go perfectly and everything that you think is a norm becomes, becomes something completely strange and foreign in your world. What do you do? And so we want you to describe for us the girl named Patrice that became a woman. And I love you told us before how, beautiful is something that you've grown accustomed to accepting or embracing rather. But look, back in elementary school, they were trying to shade you on the playground. And
yeah.
so,
you know what? It has been a long time coming, becoming Patrice Washington and becoming America's money maven. Because honestly, if you told me 10, 15, 20 years ago that this is where I'd be, I couldn't see it, and I think I've always been a person of great vision, but I still couldn't have seen this. You know what I mean? I couldn't have walked in this because I dealt with so many different things. So yeah, when you tell me that when I walked in, you guys thought I was stunning or that I really caught your attention, I told you before that means a lot to me. It still means a lot to me because I grew up the first 16, really, I'm going to keep it real, first 25 years of my life believing that I was ugly. And it wasn't just kids on the playground. There were people in my family. So the people who were supposed to love me and make me feel my most comfortable and my best self, because they were hurt people, they hurt me. And it took me going to therapy years later to understand that was abuse because I never called it that. We just called teasing or, whatever. With family, I just never saw it as emotional or verbal abuse, but that's actually what it was. And so for many years, I'm a chocolate girl and I was called Blackie quite a bit. And I remember different points in my childhood where I was literally in the tub scrubbing my skin with hot water, trying to make the black come off. Or I was getting clothespins off my grandma's clothesline. I'm Belizean, so she used to wash them clothes by hand and dry them on that line. And I would take you know what I'm talking about. I would take the clothespin and put it on my nose and try to hold it on my nose for as long as possible because I didn't want this broader flat nose. I wanted a sharp European nose. That's what my family called it, the European nose. And I wanted that like my brother or like other people in my family. And I had full lips, so I would walk around with my lips tucked in. I was thin, so I would wear 2 or 3 pair of leggings under my pants to appear thicker. Or, I was tall. I was 5'10" by 8th, 9th grade, and I was taller than most of the boys, so I would slouch. And I look like a mess. Imagine all of this going on. I used to do this walk on stage where I would show you how absolutely ridiculous I looked, trying to fit into other people's definition of beauty. But the cold part about it was I looked just like them. And so it wasn't even about me. It was about them not being happy with them and projecting that onto me. And so it took a lot of time for me to get to this place. But, for years, it's funny. In my early 30s, I heard someone say that I only got a speaking gig because I was cute. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, this where we come to? Right. Man, I said, wow, you could have never told me this before. I would have never thought anything like this. This is news to me, but it was until I was 25, my husband, who was then my boyfriend, I was crying because I had gone on vacation and he had totally redone my apartment. I had just got an apartment. No, I wasn't 25. I was about 22. Excuse me. I just graduated. I got an apartment and I went to Spain and Italy for 21 days with my best friend. And I came back and I never had time to decorate it. I literally just moved in and went on this trip. And I got back and he had taken the time to literally decorate this entire place. He got furniture, refinished it. Wow. Had stuff reupholstered. I'm talking. That's why I kept that man around. You see what I'm saying?
Our girlfriend is asking right now. I'm gonna let you answer this for them. Does he have any brothers? They want to know.
Listen, he does, but he's a child. He's a baby. He's only 25. He's trying to get that thing together. That's okay though.
Right.
But so he went around. He decorated the entire place. But one of the things that he put up were his favorite pictures of me. He had them blown up poster size. And so at first I walked in, I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm talking, this man unpacked my clothes, okay, and had it in the closets, color coded. Like, that's what I'm talking about. But let me tell you, when I noticed that there were these blown up pictures, something snapped. And I ran out of that apartment literally bawling. I ran out and sat on the stairs outside. And he was like, okay. Like, I'm trying to, are these tears of joy? You seem to be sobbing. I'm trying to understand. And I knew he wouldn't be mean to me because he's not that, obviously he's not that type of person. But for me, it was like a cruel joke almost. Like, I literally was like not used to looking at pictures of myself. Like, I did not like to look in the mirror longer than it took to wash my face, apply quick makeup, whatever. Like, I just didn't like it. And I had become accustomed to not really accepting what I look like. Like, it just was what it was, you know? And I had trained myself, you're the smart girl, you're the numbers girl, you have a lot of personality. People like you because of that.
Wow.
Not because they think you're beautiful.
Wow.
And my husband was, at the time, he was my boyfriend. He's like, do you know what you look like? Like, because we were best friends before we started dating. So I really just thought he loved me because we were friends, never because of what I look like. And that might seem odd to some people. I don't know, but that was the truth for me.
Wow.
And he made me look in the mirror and he made me start to affirm stuff, like repeat after this. He's like, look at your lips. Like, your lips are beautiful. Your eyes, they're almond shaped. Like, look at your cheekbones. Like, oh my gosh, your facial structure is amazing. And I didn't look like anyone he had ever dated. That was the other thing. So I knew it was because we were friends. Like, I knew it, you know? And so that was the beginning of my healing. And it wasn't until I was about 25 that I started to go to counseling for it. But for a couple years, it was just getting in the mirror and affirming those things that he first really showed me. And then my confidence was built from there. And I tell people all the time, I couldn't be America's Money Maven if I was still that girl, because you can't get on television, especially in this day and age where people have Twitter fingers and they're so quick to criticize and ridicule and pick you apart. If I was afraid of that piece, I could never walk in my gifts. I could never be who I am. I could never get on stages, sometimes in front of thousands of people, and have the confidence that I do now had I not gone to get help for those unsupportive beliefs that were ingrained in me as a child. Like, no way. I wouldn't be here.
Patrice, you don't even know. Look, Sybil and I were so excited about this other part of the story, but oh my God.
You just knocked it out the park with this.
Right. Like, I just feel like I just need the park right here. You know how many women are listening to this that are like, honestly, at this moment, they're having a real, honest reflection of how they feel about themselves. And so much, like, how we feel about ourselves dictates so many things in our lives. It almost dictates almost everything.
It conditions you to believe what you qualify for, right? So if you don't think that you qualify for certain things, you'll accept the guy who puts his hands on you because you don't think you're pretty enough to get a guy who will love you just, and nurture you. You'll take the guy who's a cheater. You'll take the guy who will compromise your value because you don't understand your worth. And that so many of our girlfriends are struggling right now because you have to make a decision at a certain point that, none of what the people have said is true. You had someone in your life that was there to reinforce everything that God wanted you to learn about yourself. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so.
It is. That is a piece of why I adore my husband the way that I do, because he was literally, I didn't meet him until I was about 20 years old. We were best friends for like a year and a half. But he was literally the first person. I had dated guys, high school and early college. We started dating towards the end of college for me. But he was the first person that I truly believed loved me just for me.
Yes.
Not because of what I could do, not because of I could make money, because I was already good at making money. I started that at 19. But it wasn't because of all the other stuff. He genuinely allowed me to be me. And then the big thing was he saw more in me than I saw in myself.
Wow.
I love that.
And he used to tell me, oh my God, babe, I think you could totally be on the news. Yeah. And sometimes it's so funny when I'm at a local station or I've done all kind of national and regional shows and all that or whatever. And every time I walk through and I pass by the desks where the anchors sit, or I have an opportunity to sit there with the anchors, it's always just that little God wink that reminds me, that thank God I listened to him and that I believed him.
Yeah.
Like I believed what he said, or I wouldn't be here.
Yes. Girl, yes. Look, I'm over here with a fan. A fan and a handkerchief.
Look, you sent Brandon to church.
Throwing my handkerchief in the air.
So, Patrice, I mean, this is another, you did it again, because what you don't know is yesterday we spent about an hour recording what we didn't get to record, but she blew our minds because we brought her on to talk about how she's defied the odds in becoming America's money maven and what it took for her to build that, the truth that she now lives in. But now we're getting even more layers to the backstory. Like, this is even more, it's more affirming of why you have qualified yourself to go after being America's money maven and the layers that were even attempting to hold you back. That self-esteem piece is such a big part of what, girlfriends, women, men, everyone struggles with. Just the acceptance of who we are. Because the very things that you described, that you defined as things that people were tearing you apart for, your nose. I look at your pictures, I'm like, look at those cheekbones. Look at that nose. Look at that skin. Look at those eyes.
Stunning.
I mean,
yeah.
It's funny. I always tell my 10-year-old daughter now, I teach her. First of all, I taught her how to pose for pictures when she was like 2 or 3. So the girl is always ready. She's 10 now. But, she looks at her pictures or she looks at my pictures and she's like, Mom, cheekbones on fleek. She's like, look at our eyes. Yes, girl. Yeah. Like she is so pumped up. And I'm like, wow, if I had her confidence at 10, I know that I'm doing well now, but I will be like unstoppable. This girl is so in love with her facial features. And I'm so glad that I get to be intentional now.
Yes, because there's so much that generations ahead of us had not embraced and accepted, about who we are and what our features have to offer. And, so much of that has been perpetuated in our culture, and it's up to us to really destroy everything that it seeks to do to our women and our acceptance for one another and our love for ourselves. And it, it starts with our daughters, and it starts with, once we teach them that, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Well, you know what it really was designed to do? And now that you say that, it just came to me. It was really designed to deter us from our destiny, right? Distract us from our destiny. Because when I think about if I were still in that place, all the level of things, that's what I really wanted to share with people, why I started to share more of my story. And it's what I'm calling now redefining wealth, where I really share with people all the levels that it takes to get here, right? Because you have to deal with any of the mental trauma that you've been through, because some of us think that because we have education, because we have knowledge, because you're gifted, because you know such and such, that is literally enough. Like that's the recipe to success. And that's not true, because a lot of these things, these childhood traumas or different things that you've experienced that made you feel unworthy or unlovable or whatever, it was designed to self-sabotage your future success before you could even get there, before you could even maybe think too highly of yourself and have a glimpse. And so it was the reason we were put down generations ago for our features. And our ancestors and our grandmas and great grandmas who didn't know better, they accepted it, but then they perpetuated it. And it's the enemy's trick to keep us from our destiny. Had that not been broken, that was a generational curse. To think that way was a generational curse. And if there's any woman under the sound of my voice right now where you know in your family that this has been a thing, you have the opportunity to say today that enough is enough. Like this is a curse that I will break because it's keeping me from my destiny and it's definitely preventing me from the wealth that I desire.
Absolutely. And it's different in every family. Some family, it's all about weight.
Yeah.
And there's somebody in that family that's literally tracking your weight. You don't have to step on a scale because as soon as you walk through their door,
girl,
they're letting you know if you've gained or lost. And all of those things play such a big part on how we approach the world.
Totally.
and then what we teach our kids. I love it. Your story is one of those that to me is just, it's such an amazing story in terms of just against all odds and the things you've been able to accomplish and even what you just shared with us. But if you had to think of one situation that you look back now and you're like, nothing but God, or I can't even believe I made it through that myself, what would that be for you, Patrice?
Ooh, that would definitely be what I consider to be really the story behind me becoming America's Money Maven. So today, people know me from my weekly segment on the Steve Harvey Morning Show, and I've been featured on talk shows and radio shows all over the country and internationally, and all that stuff is cool. But I always tell people I'm not the money maven because of a textbook. I'm truly here because of my testimony. And I know that I'm only here because of my faith, which got me through one of the darkest periods of my life. And I mentioned earlier that I started in real estate at 19 years old. I became a licensed real estate professional and really fell in love with real estate, did really well early on, did a little too well because they were threatening to take away my my financial aid because I was starting to file them good tax returns in like 1920, but did really well. And then during my senior year in college at USC, University of Southern California, I was a business major emphasizing entrepreneurial studies. And I decided to take one of my projects for entrepreneurial studies and turn it into an actual business. And it's funny because my professor back then, I wanted to start the real estate and mortgage brokerage and did a whole project around it, projections, everything. And he gave me a B for the presentation piece and then a C plus for the actual work and research because he said I was being unrealistic. And that was the best thing he could have done because the way that I'm set up now I might not have been that great, felt that great about my looks, but I was very clear about my brilliance intellectually. And I was like, if I set my mind to do this, let me let you know it's about to get done. And I was like hell bent on a mission to prove this man wrong. I had him one semester. His name was Chris. Okay. I probably shouldn't have said his real name, but anyway, I had this man one semester and I was determined to prove him wrong. And my then best friend turned boyfriend and I decided we were going to start this real estate and mortgage brokerage. I got my broker's license during my second semester of my senior year. And in California, if you're a broker, you can do real estate and mortgage. So I did both sides of the transactions. We started in the dining room of that apartment that my now husband had dressed up for me. And we made it happen. We turned that from senior year to the time we were 25 into a 7-figure business. Wow. We controlled all sides of every transaction that came through our doors. We had 16 licensed real estate and mortgage professionals that worked for us, as well as full-time employees. And altogether, we did really well. We ate how we want to eat. We drove what we want to drive. We lived where we want to live. We traveled everywhere we wanted to go. We were living it up.
Wow.
Until the recession hit. And if you were in real estate, a lot of people say 2009, but if you were in real estate, you started to feel it in 2007. And I felt it especially because I literally was in a hospital bedroom on bed rest, waiting to have my daughter, and I was watching it unfold on the news every day. And I had gone into preterm labor. I took a fall down the stairs of our home and went to the emergency room, and they said, this baby's coming today. And for the moms, the girlfriends who are moms, I was 21 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
So that's not really what you want to hear at 21 weeks. And so they said, we just need her to stay in as long as possible. They gave me some steroids to try to help her development kind of speed up as much as possible. But the reality is they said any day now. And when I tell you I'm only here because of my faith, I refused to receive it. I started to pray immediately that she would stay in as long as she needed to. And after 4 days, they were like, well, guess we're going to have to move you to a regular room. You're in labor and delivery. You're kind of taking up this bed space. Right. So they moved me to a labor and delivery ward or maternity ward type of space. And I ended up being on bed rest for nearly 10 weeks. And during that time, I was watching the news every day where the banks were closing down one by one. And I was getting the calls from my team members. They were freaking out. They were stressing out. And I literally was going from being able to gross on any given month $100,000 a month to us not being able to get $2,000 a month in the door. And I sat on bed rest. I laid there on bed rest, kind of listening, reading the emails, watching this all unfold, and really kind of stressing out. Not kind of, I was totally stressing out because I was a fixer. You know, I was the person that everyone came to fix things. Right. And I found myself in a place where I couldn't fix anything for anybody, including myself. And there was one day in particular where I saw a gentleman that I worked with. He worked at one of the banks. He was my account executive. And they had shut down the doors to his branch, literally had chains on it. And he was the person they were interviewing on the news. And y'all, he was going off. Like they had to get rid of him because he was cursing and carrying on and everything. Wow. And I was like, oh my gosh, this really just got real. And my doctor walked in and she said, Patrice, I don't know what you're stressing about, because I wore the belt monitor the whole time so they could keep up with the baby. She's like, I don't know what you're stressing about, but if you don't stop, you're going to leave here 2 years in a row with no baby. Because the year before, I had a son at 24 weeks who died in my arms after 5 hours on this. He died holding my finger. To his last breath in my arm. Yeah, he was 1 pound, 10 ounces. And one of his eyes was still fused shut, and you know, his skin was kind of, you know, that tacky. It wasn't, because it wasn't fully developed. Like I just never forget. I'll never forget that experience. And I thought about that. And at the time she told me this, I was about 23, 24 weeks. And I said, you know what? I have to let go. I have to surrender. I have to trust and believe that if I did this thing once, I can do it again. But I cannot be enslaved to a credit score or to a mortgage, several mortgages. I owned 13 pieces of property at the time. And my tenants were losing their jobs in the recession and they were not paying rent. And everything that could happen during that time. Property managers stealing money, tenants not paying rent, banks closing down. We lost in real estate investments, in the stock market, and like everything that could happen happened. And I went into that hospital one way and left in a completely different place. But when I left 10 weeks later, the only thing that mattered was that my daughter had stayed in to almost 31 weeks. She was perfectly healthy. She was breathing on her own. You know, her eyes were open. She was just, she was a miracle. She was a miracle. And the only thing that mattered in that moment was to bring that girl here healthy and in one piece. Yeah. The money didn't matter. The homes didn't matter. The business didn't matter. I was like, you know what? I got to deal with that when I deal with it. But right now, I'm not going to leave here 2 years in a row with no baby. And I had them take the TV out of that room. We put my my email on like a do not disturb, where I wasn't getting the emails at the time. Like they were being forwarded to people on my team. My husband wouldn't let people call me unless you were coming just as a friend to just bring me some magazines or some tea, you know, tell me what was going on the outside world. I didn't care. I didn't care. And I prayed every day. I listened to worship music every day. I would look at sermons on my laptop, and I just tried to keep my spirit strong. I kept my faith strong, and I was able to leave there with a baby that was healthy. She was born 3 pounds, 2 ounces. She stayed in the NICU for 3 weeks. And when I brought her home, she's never been sick. She's 10 years old.
Wow.
Never been sick. And she plays 3 sports, and she's phenomenal at all of them. She's one of the strongest people I've literally ever met in my life. So gifted, so anointed. And so in that season, I came out and everything was different. I had to lay my staff off. I had to short sell many of our real estate property. Some things foreclosed, including my 6,000 square foot home in Southern California. And before you knew it, I was living in a 600 square foot box, literally a very small apartment where you could see everything standing in one place in Metairie, Louisiana. And we ended up in Louisiana because with no friends, no family, and a newborn baby, because we had some property that we wanted to try to rehab and salvage because there was great profit. We had bought property after Hurricane Katrina, but we never had a chance to really go and rehab it. And we thought, okay, the last of our savings, we're going to put it in this, flip this property, and have some money to live off of. Mm-hmm. Well, we got to New Orleans, and everything that could happen happened. We had people stealing the copper plumbing and stealing the appliances and the air conditioning units. And every time we put something in, by the time we could get a tenant in, it was stolen. Everything that could happen. We had a hard money lender that reneged in the midst of doing the property and called the whole loan due. And just when I tell you guys, everything that could happen. And again, we were there with no friends and no family. And it got to the point where my husband had gone from tailored suits to literally taking a job at Taco Bell and having people throw open-faced tacos at him through a drive-through window. Because I don't know if you know that people cut up with food service workers, but an order was wrong. Someone came through the drive-through, said, "Didn't I say no lettuce?" and literally threw an open-faced taco in his face. And this is a man with degrees who had been wearing tailored suits and having 13 pieces of property and was so well respected just a year and a half before. And he took that job and smelled like nasty taco meat every day. I was washing them uniforms because he wanted to make sure that we had insurance. And
oh, girl.
There was one point where I literally could not take it. I literally got to this point. I had gone to see him, and I was sitting in the back of a Taco Bell store in Kennesaw, Louisiana, right near the airport there in Metairie, Louisiana. And I just couldn't see him in that uniform, I couldn't see him, like people talking to him that way, do you know who this is? Do you know what he's done? Do you know how brilliant this man is? Like, this is my baby daddy, do you understand? And I went home, and when Gerald got home, he took Reagan for a walk with a stroller, and I literally bawled. It wasn't a little cry anymore. I mean, it was sobbing, it was bawling, it was ugly crying, making any ugly face you can probably imagine. And just asking God, why? What did I do? I'm a good person. I've treated people well. I wasn't one of those real estate or loan officers who was overcharging people and putting them in bad loans and all this stuff. To this day, so many of my clients still follow me. They still rep me. They still will ride for me. And most of them will say they only still have their homes because of how I treated them, because I didn't take advantage of them. So I was like, God, how did I get here? What did I do to deserve this? And it was in that moment, a still small voice said, "Get your Bible." And I reached and I got my Bible and ended up on Proverbs 17:16. And it said, "What good is money in the hands of a fool if they have no desire to seek wisdom?" And that verse hit me like a ton of bricks, because I realized after really pondering it and reading it back and forth. And then I started looking up the definition of wisdom and looking at how that differed from knowledge. And I was like, man, I've got knowledge. I have certificates. I have licenses. I have degrees at this point. I have knowledge. I have education, but I never really sought wisdom. Nobody taught me how to seek wisdom, and wisdom is knowing how to apply the knowledge that you have, and I didn't have that. When the real estate market started to crash, there were older folks in the office building where I had my 2,000 square foot office. There were older folks they were shutting down shop, and we were watching them close up and pack up, looking at them like, oh, they must not be making no money. Not thinking, maybe I should ask what they see that I don't. Because if you've been in this for 20, 30 years, why are you giving up your prime office space in El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, California, this happening spot? Why would you do that? I didn't even know to seek it. I didn't know to ask. And when things started to hit the fan, I waited until my back was up against the wall before I would even utter a word. I was too committed to suffering in silence because I was supposed to be the one that made it. I was the one that everybody came to. I was the one who's supposed to answer all the questions. And I didn't even know what I didn't know. I didn't know. And that proverb literally set me free. Because what it taught me was that I needed to take personal responsibility for where I was. Yes, the market was jacked up, but my husband and I could have made a lot of different decisions. There was no reason that I needed 13 pieces of property at 26 years old. Can we keep it real? Because if you have a mortgage on 10 of them, 12 of them, you're not really doing anything. You don't have the capacity yet. Right. And we thought because we could qualify for the mortgage and because we made a lot of money and we can float all these mortgages, we didn't know that we could float it until people stopped paying all the rent. And then we were responsible for everything. We didn't know. And that's just stuff that had we been humble enough, and we were not arrogant people. We just really didn't know, And it's like, have we learned to sit at the feet of wise people, to seek wise counsel? Have we learned to invest in coaching? Have we learned to honor mentoring? There are a lot of things that we could have avoided, and we could have rode that storm much better. I don't regret any of my decisions because they brought me to this place, but I am accepting of the fact that I have to take, and I have taken responsibility for where we were. And in that moment, what I promised God as all of this was being revealed to me on that bathroom floor is that I would make it my life's mission as long as he said I needed to, as long as he released me to do it, to teach people that this journey to wealth is not about chasing money. It is definitely about seeking wisdom. Because if you have wisdom, you can weather the storm. If you have wisdom, you can always get it back. If you have wisdom, you don't have to fall as hard as you might be falling right now. Or for those of us who have fallen really hard, like wisdom is the key. And so that's what I've been doing, you guys, since 2009. I've made that my mission, and I stand by it, and I do my best to live it out in different forms, whether it's through books or speaking or coaching or this new podcast that I have. Like, I just want to live that out in every way possible.
Oh, Patrice. Patrice, can we give you a hand clap and an offering?
Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
Where is the collection place?
Y'all, okay, first of all, I'm wiping tears. Let me just be clear. I'm over here just wiping tears because you layered, the way you layered that, first of all, it's like you've been a bishop your whole life. And I know you're not a bishop now, but I'm just saying you're so gifted to share this message because the wisdom is the principal thing. And I think we get so caught up in the certificates. We get so caught up in getting one more degree, one more slip that qualifies us, when all we have to do is get the wisdom and be humble enough to seek it from people who've gone before us, who are willing to offer us insights and value and meaning, and asking God, like, yo, what's up with this happening in the market? He's telling you to make a move. We make the move when he says it, not when we feel it's time, when he says it's time. And it makes such a, like you said, you wouldn't have even had to have dealt with the real estate, the shifts in the market in the way that you had you taken that wisdom. But it applies in so many different areas of our lives where we think we know what we need, and we're suffering silently, like you said. And I'm just, oh my gosh.
We'll be right back after these messages. What's up, great girlfriends? It's Sybil here, and this pod mama has a pod baby. That's right, the Grace Podcast, which is a spiritual development podcast dedicated to helping you grow in your relationship with God through the Word of God. Listen in each week as we take your life, plug it into scriptures, and refresh it with biblical insights to make you more bold and brave each day. You can log on to my website, SybilAmoody.com, to catch up on the most recent episodes and leave your iTunes review. Thank you for listening. Are you struggling to get ahead in life? Are you tired of living a status quo, mediocre, average life? Is your life characterized by chaos, confusion, clutter, and disorder? Are you frustrated with the continuous cycle of defeat? Is your vision for your life bigger than how you're living right now? Are you living beneath the vision God has for you? Are you ready to step into your greatness and all that God has for you? If yes, join the Abundant Life Camp. ALC is a success and accountability group for women ready to step into the abundant life you desire. Abundant Life Camp. Visit the website at www.abundantlifecamp.com.
Oh my goodness, Patrice. I don't really know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. I just hope that everyone that's listening, I located myself in so many pieces of your story, and I'm pretty sure that all of my
Absolutely.
girlfriends, all of our my girlfriends, all our girlfriends, locate the places where you need wisdom and seek it. Don't be so proud, and don't
Yeah.
assume that the suffering, the harshness of suffering is yours to have. It's not always ours, but we will suffer if we don't get smart, get wise about how we approach business and how we approach life and relationships. Even when you're with your doctor, think about that, how much her wisdom was so valuable to you to say, you're not going to leave here with the baby 2 years in a row if you don't follow my wisdom, which is to stop stressing. Consequently, you started making different decisions. You changed your course completely.
Yeah, because some of us will seek help, but then we don't want to listen to the advice. Like the other piece is you have to humble yourself and trust the process. Like you said, from people who have been there, done that, or have seen some things play out before. And, I'm always about making sure that the advice given to me is in alignment with my spirit. I do believe that. But, a lot of us will play that card too long too, because we get to be praying and praying and praying and praying. And, sometimes God is like, I already answered you because I sent you somebody. Like, I'm not going to keep playing with you. Like I got other stuff to do. Some of us will get into analysis paralysis. And I think one of the keys that have been, or one of the biggest parts for me and the keys to success have been my ability to take heed. Like, especially since that point, I take heed. I jump into action when something feels right in my spirit, and I truly feel like this is in alignment with what God is telling me, even if the messenger does not look like someone who I think it should look like. That's the other thing. Like, we always trying to size people up. There is so much wisdom out there that may not come in the package that you want it to come in, but you have to be open. I am open to receiving wisdom from other people. My daughter taught me how to swim last year. Okay. For the first time in my life, I swam last year because my daughter taught me at 9 years old at the
Wow.
time.
Simple has a similar story.
Absolutely,
Really?
girl.
Yeah. We're so connected anyway. From the first time I talked to you guys, I was like, oh, these are my girlfriends for real.
Oh yeah, she's coming to the conference.
No, okay, so Patrice, take us really quickly to you going from Patrice Washington to America's Money Maven.
Well, when I was on the floor, snotting and crying, and research, looking for, like, trying to understand the difference between wisdom and knowledge, one of the things that I found online as I was like literally trying to Google stuff, where I kept landing on people's blogs. And because I had been in real estate and I didn't really use the internet for much back then. I know that's probably crazy, but I didn't. Like, we weren't like like a world of Googlers back then, right? It wasn't such a big thing. So I didn't really know what a blog was, but I was finding different things on people's blogs. And I was like, oh, I think I could do something like this. And I literally started the next morning with a free blogspot.com and just took a proverb, started with that one, and then gave like a real life application. And when I started the blog, the first probably 3 or 4 months was just that, taking a scripture from Proverbs and a business or money related scripture, and then giving my spin on how it related to real life. And, I did it for a while. First, it was just me and my mom and my husband that were reading. And then I realized it was just me reading, because I would ask them questions and they would be like, oh, I didn't see it today. Oh, okay. So you guys are playing. So now I have nothing for it. That's how I felt. And I stopped for probably a month. And then I got a random email from a man, to this day I don't know who he is. I never knew who he was, but sent me an email that said, hey, I hope you're okay. You haven't posted a blog post in a while.
Wow.
And I was like, who is this man? Where did he come from? Is he stalking me? What is this? Wait a minute. Because I didn't know how it worked, you guys. I just was not in that world like that. And I was like, how does he know me? How did he find me? And then it dawned on me the same way that I found other people's blogs, right? And I was like, wow, that means that I was helping someone. And I promised myself from that point forward that if I help just one, I won't stop until God tells me it's time to stop. Like, if he doesn't release me to stop, I don't get to say that I don't feel like it. And I kept going. I started back. Then I got into social media, which I was very scared of initially as well. Because remember, I had fled California. So I had been used to hiding out by that time from friends and family. They didn't know the extent to which, everything had happened with us at the time. And so I got on social media and I started, engaging with people. And there was one woman, her name is Natalie P. McNeil. She wrote the book, The Frugalista Files. And I followed her on Twitter and I ended up buying the book when I had no money and no business buying a book. Let me be clear. And but I loved the book so much. It was so quirky and funny. I would tweet her from the book. Well, I didn't know that because I was tweeting her, she looked me up and she started reading the blog. And there was one opportunity where with Upscale Magazine, they wanted her to write a piece. She had been writing for them and she didn't have time. And she said, I know someone that can. And she sent me a direct message, or tweeted me at the time, I think, tweeted me what my email address was. I sent it back to her. And before you know it, I was on an email with her and the editor from Upscale Magazine. And from Upscale Magazine, I started to blog online for Hello Beautiful as well. I pitched them about being their money person. When I first started, there was only gossip and entertainment and beauty. And I was like, Black women are more than that. I have something to contribute. So I literally sent them an email cold turkey. And in blogging for them and writing for Upscale Magazine, sometimes the pieces were a little controversial. I had one piece that went viral in particular. It was 5 reasons Black women can't save money. And one of the points was I said, you treat your boyfriend like a husband. You on lease and stuff. And this man is ruining your credit. So that got a lot of attention. And because Hello Beautiful was owned by the same people who owned Radio One, I started to get invited to do radio segments. People were asking me why I hated Black women and all this foolishness, but it was a chance to build my voice. And that was 2010. And ever since then, one opportunity has led to the next, but they've all been very organic. There's very few things where I've actually, really pitched really hard. To be honest, and that's what I call, one of my taglines is about chasing purpose, not money. And I say that I want to help women earn more money without chasing, earn more without chasing money. And that's been my experience for the last 7 years. I would say 85 to 90% of the opportunities that I've received, they've actually been attracted through the principles that I teach in Redefining Wealth.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. I know.
Mic drop.
Oh, I know.
Mic drop, Patrice. Oh, you just don't even know. If we were sitting next to you, I'd be snuggled all up on you right now.
When I come back to the East Coast, we can definitely snuggle. We can totally snuggle up.
It's just been so good. Like your story, like Sybil said, just has so many layers. It's so incredible and so relatable in so many different ways. I'm so excited for you. Like, I'm sure people now see where you are and have no idea where you've been.
Yeah, I get that a lot. A lot of times people will say, well, you don't know what it's like to, fill in the blank. And I'm like, I don't know what it's like. When I was in New Orleans, I ran outside in pajamas with my baby in Pampers, begging the electricity man to turn the power back on and telling him, if you don't turn it back on, there's a baby in here who'll starve because her milk will spoil. I'm like, I literally had to get a EBT card. For those of you that are more sophisticated, that's food stamps. At one point, I was on food stamps for 6 months. And I literally, the woman, the caseworker, had to console me because when she called my name and I sat at that desk, I was sobbing. And I said, I just don't belong here. I don't belong here. I'm not supposed to be here. And she's like, listen, if you've been a tax-paying citizen, you do belong here. And you deserve to get help in your time of need. And you're going to take this help. It's a Black woman. And I said, you're right. You're right. And the minute that I wasn't even all the way back on my feet, but the minute that I got a little job in Atlanta where I was making $1,000 a month and so grateful for it, $500 every 2 weeks. And I worked 20 something hours a week to get $500 every 2 weeks, you guys. And I was so grateful at the time that when it was time to renew, I happily declined and did not take it back. I was like, all I needed was a little glimpse of hope, and this first 1,000 is the start to 10,000 and onward and upward from there. And I gave them their food stamps back. I didn't keep using the food stamps. But when people say, you don't know what it's like, I'm like, you don't know my whole story. And that's why I'm so grateful for opportunities like this, like the Great Girlfriends podcast, where I can really share my story. And that's why I'm grateful for the opportunity to start Redefining Wealth, to start my new podcast, because, you know, I've been doing so much media for the last several years that people are used to experiencing me in sound bites. And so I can't tell my whole story in a sound bite. I got 3 minutes to give a point. And most often, because I'm a financial expert, people want a point about budgeting or credit or saving or debt elimination. And I'm like, hold up. I'm trying to redefine wealth. There is so much more to building wealth than those things. That is a small piece. That's the skill set piece. But that's 20%. The other 80% is you and a whole bunch of other work that we have to do. And so I was so passionate. I didn't know I was going to start the podcast as soon as I did, quite frankly. You know, God kind of just like opened the door and I kicked it in and ran through and made it happen. But when I get to record the podcast, it's such a blessing because I'm like, man, I get to be me. I get to tell my story and I get to tell all my crazy stories. And I get to, you know, be all of myself, which you can't always be with a producer breathing down your back.
Right. Now, is the podcast released, Patrice?
It is. It came out in September. I am so excited about it. So far, I've been breaking down the pillars. There's 6 pillars to redefining wealth. And I've kind of you haven't really known that they're pillars, but it's kind of a lot of the story that I've shared and things that I've had to work on. And I wanted to just be able to tell the truth about how I've rebuilt myself, because it definitely hasn't been through budgeting fanatically. Like, that's cool. It's one part, but it's not the whole story. And so far, I've been releasing the pillars and really sharing what each piece of the pillar looks like and sharing my story and the different stories of how I've gotten here. And I had a great interview with my good friend, Devon Franklin. And people know him as Megan Good's husband, but he's a Hollywood producer and he's also a preacher. And he's just phenomenal. He embodies redefining wealth in all the pillars. I mean, talk about just an all-around good dude. So I'm really inviting people. A lot of it is going to be me sharing my wisdom and insights, but then also really trying to drive home the fact that I'm not lying. This really does work, because here are examples of other people like Devon who are incorporating these things in their lives, and it shows in their ability to chase their purpose and not money, yet still build wealth and lasting wealth.
I love it. How has Patrice Great Girlfriends played a part in your life and rebuilding, you know, wealth and just like through your entire journey?
Oh, man. One of the pillars in redefining wealth is people. And it's about creating relationships that matter. And this time around, in becoming America's Money Maven, I have been so much more intentional about still honoring my friendships and honoring my girlfriends. When I was building the real estate business, I was on that hustle grind. I was the person who was like, you know, sleeping is for suckers, no time for foolishness, no time for play, like I'm about my money. And many of my friends respected me in this whole about my money type of mentality. But there were pieces of that were very lonely. And actually, the way that I've arrived at the redefining wealth concept is because one of my great girlfriends who you guys met, her name is Safia, now does strategic partnerships and public relations for the Money Maven brand and for Redefining Wealth. I was talking to her, and she was going through a transition, leaving corporate America to pursue entrepreneurship. And I was telling her about being tired of the soundbite and really wanting a place where I could be all of myself, because I have so much more to offer than just financial advice. And it was through my encouragement that she actually quit her job. I didn't know she was going to quit it that day. I was just kind of hypothetically.
Oh, she played no games.
Yeah. was like through my encouragement that she actually left her job and went on, her journey and her path. And it was through her encouragement that I embraced that my audience could accept more than money advice from me. Like they can accept that I have more to offer because I've never talked about money in the traditional way. Anyway, I've always kind of been saying this stuff without really calling it anything in particular, just the way that I communicate with my audience. Right. And now we're kind of partners in this. She really has supported this whole pivot, if you will, in this direction. And so her and many of my other girlfriends, I mean, they have been so supportive of me being me. I think it's so funny now when they come to see me speak at different places. They're like, you really just are you on stage. Like, you really don't have a stage voice. I'm listening to you, or they hear me sometimes. They're like, I'm listening to you. And I'm like, this is how she talk at the house when we drinking wine. Like, you don't have like a professional voice. I'm like, I wish I did, but I don't. I don't have a professional voice. Like, this is it. This is all I got. I am unapologetically me at this point. That's kind of the best thing about, being in my mid-30s. Like, I am really starting to love and appreciate who God has called me to be. And I have accepted my story for what it is. It's my story. And whether people like it or dislike it or think it's nice or think it's awful or think I should have done different things or whatever, the past is the past. I can't change that. It is what it is. And it's what has made me who I am.
Absolutely.
And my great girlfriends have taught me how to walk in that. And I know that whether the world receives me or not, I have a phenomenal husband. I have a wonderful child. My mom is amazing. And I have some great girlfriends and good friends who, no matter what, I can be me.
I love it. You have to tell first of all, you're amazing, Patrice. Absolutely amazing. But you have to tell our great girlfriends all the places they can connect with you online, your books, your podcast.
Yeah. Well, you can find out everything about me at patricewashington.com. patricewashington.com, not Patricia. Honor my mama. She named me Patrice. At patricewashington.com. And I'm on social media everywhere, really active on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Seek Wisdom PCW at Seek Wisdom PCW. And please check out the new podcast. It's Redefining Wealth with Patrice Washington. You can find it on iTunes, iHeartRadio, the free iHeartRadio app. They're my partner. Also Stitcher, Spreaker, pretty much anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can find me there. Please come and check it out.
And this is good.
It's just more of this.
This is amazing. And this is what people need. You said, it's you build you, then you can build the wealth, because the wealth is within. And as long as we understand that, we can continue to build something that we can have forever, lasting wealth. It's so good. And Patrice, we're so grateful, just grateful for your time and everything that you offered today.
Sybil, I knew that it would be amazing because we have been trying so hard to make this happen. You guys don't even understand. Yeah. But I believe that there's some great girlfriends who are going to be set free today because they're listening to this conversation. And so no matter how many times we had to sync our calendars and try different ways to record and all of that, I know that this time, was divine time. This was a divine appointment. And I'm really grateful that I met you guys. I think you're both phenomenal women, and I'm honored to have the opportunity.
What do you want the kids? What do you want?
Platform.
Like you just want everything?
So much.
Patrice, I mean, really? Like you just want it all from us? You have us wide open. What is it? Like?
I love you guys. I love how you empower women. I love that you keep it real. Like I've read the reviews on you on iTunes and how your audience just really, they love you. They connect with you. You're so relatable. You're so personable. You really are girlfriends. And I appreciate that you are who you are unapologetically. Like I mean that wholeheartedly. Cause when you're out here and you're meeting people and they're not who they say they are, like they appear one way online and then you meet them in person and you're like, ooh, does she empower women? Does she empower women? Cause I don't feel empowered. You know what I'm saying? Like that's real. So I give credit where credit is due. Honestly,
Girl,
like
I'm like,
that's all. You don't have to give me your children. That's all.
I'm telling you, we appreciate it. Honestly, we really do. And like you said, it's when you meet people who you share the mission with, and you share authenticity, and you meet them at the heart. It just feels so good. It reinforces everything that we want our girlfriends to understand about our show, and that you're gonna be all right. The odds will come against you for sure. They will. There will be moments when everything in your world looks strange sometimes. You know, it's just like, what is going on? But you're going to be all right. And God will send people along the way to reaffirm that in different times and seasons. And when we had the opportunity to have that phone call with you, and it was just a girlfriend connection, and it was actually beyond expectation, Patrice. It really was, because like you said, you never really know what you're getting when you get on the phone. And you know, you may be girlfriend to one person, but you can be a jerk to somebody else. There are people who are like that, you know. You offered your whole self, and you continue to do that.
Yeah, I do.
And I just know that this is I think that everything that you've been through is the beginning. Like we're not even at the fullness of what you're about to experience in your life, you know? Yeah, girl. So, okay. So girlfriends, listen, we're not going to hold Patrice forever, though we could, because I know they all sitting there like, and what else? Tell us about that time in high school. Tell us about... You know how it goes. I mean, once it's good, you're like, okay, I want more. And we'll probably have to have you back on for some more. But meanwhile, we always close out our show with thanking our husbands. And so you know Kwaku, and I can't thank him enough. And I'll just continue to say thank you to him for being amazing, for being the man he said he was. You know what I'm talking about? Woo! Girl.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. I do. And I want to thank my husband, Rich Daniel. So much of what you said, Patrice, resonated with me in terms of just accepting me for fully who I was. And that was so hard for me to even accept. I wasn't even used to people accepting me for just fully me outside of my girlfriends. So, yeah.
Well, I'll give a shout out to Gerald Washington, honey. Praise for Gerald Washington. And I will say that's a whole nother conversation. Gerald and I have been through a lot since college. Sickness and health, and rich or poor for show, and for better or worse. And yet he continues to fight to be the best man that he can be. You know, like, and to see someone who's so committed to just wanting to be better and better, and be better than any example that they've ever had in terms of being a father and a husband is so encouraging. Wow. Because we're the only people in our family that are married. Like, there's no other married people on my side of the family. It's just us. And so we continue to fight to break those generational curses as well. And so thank you, Gerald. Lord knows we both a work in progress.
I know.
We're working together every day.
That's a whole nother podcast, Sybil.
That's coming. Because people need to know that there are champions out there. You can win at your marriage. You really can. It's not going to be, every day it's not going to be a walk in the park, but your marriage can be legitimately yours. Like, everything God wants for you is there. Yeah. It can't be lazy. It requires work. Just as hard as you will for that check, that's how hard you got to go for your marriage, if not harder. Yeah. But anyway, look.
Yep.
Absolutely.
look, the girlfriends are like, really? Y'all gonna wait till the end of the episode to just throw all these
And we thank our kids, Sam, Dylan, Sky from Brandis, and Reagan from Patrice. And all of you great girlfriends, thank you so much for trusting us as your go-to source for everything life, love, and laughter. Make sure you listen every single Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Bean, Podcast Republic, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and every other podcasting service that's out there. Be sure to check us out on social. We're on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends. We're on Twitter at _greatGFS. We're on Facebook at The Great Girlfriends, and we have an amazing Facebook group with over 16,000 members, which is called The Great Girlfriends as well. Make sure you post your questions online, you share with your friends, keep listening, and keep being a great girlfriend. On behalf of The Great Girlfriends, we are signing off. Peace.